Fighting games. There's a lot of them out there. I love them because it's fun to learn new fighting styles, beat up whoever stands in your way, along with being able to vent your anger in a healthier way instead of taking it out on a real human. We also can't forget that a lot of fighting games somehow manage to contain great soundtracks. Yes sir, fighting games are pure satisfaction every time I play a good one. With that, I think it's time to talk about a great fighting game made by Capcom that isn't Street Fighter or Marvel vs. Capcom. This is Darkstalkers, or Vampire if you go by the Japanese name. Made by Capcom in the arcade in 1994, it featured character designs that really stood out at the time, including half-human animal hybrids, to vampires and even real-life creatures. The game quickly gained popularity. It also boosted great gameplay mechanics, just like Capcom Street Fighter 2 before it. With this success, Capcom made Vampire Hunter Darkstalkers Revenge for the arcades in 1995. They then ported the game in 1996 to the Sega Saturn, and this is the version I will be looking into for this video. Is the second Darkstalkers game worth a look? Let's see if we can answer that question. Vampire Hunter Darkstalkers Revenge is a pretty simple affair as far as features go. There's the arcade mode, a versus mode for 2 players, and the options. You can tell that this is an arcade game first and foremost. When you do start, you can choose normal or turbo speeds, and then you can choose from a variety of characters. All of them are based on real life creatures or a supernatural being like a Catwoman or a vampire. All the characters have personality just looking at their idle animations during the character select screen. I guess I'll just stick around for a bit. Actually, let's just pick a fighter and go for it. Once you finally begin fighting, you realise 2 things. To begin with, this is actually a kind of remake of the first Darkstalkers game, although much improved in its presentation, and although the movesets are similar too, there's enough here that's different to make it still worth owning. For a kick, as you'd expect, the Sega Saturn controller is put to good use. All 6 of its face buttons get used. Each button corresponds to a light, medium and strong punch or kick, and you can mix and match them to get a combo going. You can pull off stronger attacks by inputting Street Fighter-like combinations, and if you build up the special meter enough, you can pull off a devastating attack to overcome your foes. In this game, you can stack up the special meter, useful if you need to put someone in their place. Now all of this sounds great, but what makes Darkstalkers Revenge particularly great is how responsive the controls are. You feel as if you can do anything you want, whenever you want, and there's nothing to hold you back. No waiting for animations to finish, no delays to the button inputs, and the Sega Saturn controller really is perfect for a game like this. It feels like putty in my hands. You can imagine all this enhances the fun factor greatly. Outside of the great fighting controls and character movesets, which all animate pretty well by the way, the other aspects to this game is what keeps it standing out to the other 2D fighting games of the time. We could talk all day about the character designs for sure. After all, Felicia, Orbath and Dimitri are my favourite characters from this franchise, but let's move on to the backgrounds. Yes, they all look very detailed indeed, and have a decent amount of animation going on behind you as you fight. I even love how a few of them have bits where you can damage or destroy parts of the scenery when you launch a character into them. It's something that I always try to do as I get the fatal blow, as it looks fantastic seeing it play out in slow motion. How much better can it get? I always look forward to seeing the next stage, wondering where I'll be fighting my next foe. This game never disappoints me in that aspect, I can confirm. The good news keeps on coming too, because the game runs at a solid frame rate with little to no slowdown. Again, the animations are pretty impressive, even though you can see cuts in some places like on bigger character sprites due to the limited RAM of the Sega Saturn. I will say, Capcom did well considering this factor, and it comes off looking a bit better than the X-Men Children of the Atom port, which incidentally also has the Saturn's internal RAM take the full brunt of the arcade's power. It might be because Capcom did the port themselves this time, and perhaps they had a better grasp of what they could pull off with the Saturn's internals. After all, this game wouldn't come out for Sony's PlayStation, which is a shame. Of course, this wouldn't be an Affro's Curiosities review if we didn't mention the sound effects and music. Capcom did a great job in both departments for sure. There's enough variety of sound effects that in turn sound satisfying each time you hear them play out. Not only does it feel good to beat up your enemy, it sounds satisfying to boot as well. While this is good and all, it's all overshadowed by the fantastic music playing in the background. Every character has a dedicated theme assigned to them and they all sound wonderful. It's a bit hard to describe why exactly I like the soundtrack, but the arrangement sounds more environmental than your average fighting game, and since it's character specific, you get a feel for the character and their personalities too. Even the victory screen has this element too. Out of all the Darkstalkers games, this one has the best soundtrack in my opinion. It's not even CD quality, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I can happily say for once that I don't want this soundtrack to be rearranged. It's perfect as it is. Here's a few samples of the music in question, with my favourite being Orbath's stage theme. You might be wondering, is that all to the game then? No unlockables, secret stages or extra modes to play? Sadly, no. You get what you get here, and although some of you will be disappointed to hear that, don't be. Darkstalkers Revenge is easy to pick up and play. You'll soon forget any of its downsides or the fact that this is essentially a reskin or remake of the first game, or that the Sega Saturn loses some of the arcade version's flair. Frankly, why worry about that when you can see that this is a great game that has stood the test of time and still kicks butt, even today. Darkstalkers Revenge might be light on longevity and content, but what is here will keep you playing for years to come. I play it fairly often on the Sega Saturn, and since you can get the Japanese version for less than £15, it's such a steal for that price. It's practically a no-brainer of a purchase, especially if you are just getting started on collecting Sega Saturn games. For the love of gaming, don't pass this one up. There we are, folks. The second Darkstalkers game really impressed me, and I'm so happy I finally own this gem of a video game. It still annoys me to this day that Capcom has left the series behind. There is so much potential left to explore, and imagine how much better the graphics could be on a current generation system. My imagination goes wild at what could be achieved at the level of technology we have today. Regardless of that, I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on Darkstalkers Revenge? Are you a fan of Darkstalkers in general? Let me know in the comments, and I hope to see you all again next time.